Okay, good morning. Today is the 26th of January, 2024. The time is 11:45 a.m. My name is David Pyle. I'm here interviewing Staff Sergeant Johnny Johnson, retired U.S. Air Force, at the Rocky Mountain Regional VA Medical Center in Aurora, Colorado, as part of the Remembering Our Veterans program. So, John, thanks for being here today. We really appreciate you taking time to do this.
It's my pleasure.
So, if you would, sir, tell us a little bit about your early childhood. Where were you born, and where you grew up, and in your early life there.
Well, I grew up in a coal mining town in West Virginia. It was called Glen Rogers, but I'm going to use the term City Beckley because that's the closest to it. So if you go to where I was born in Glen Rogers, I don't think Google could find it, other than it tells you when you get down to the post office in Beckley, you go down to this hollow, and when you get to the hollow, you take a left at the graveyard, and my house is up on the hill. So I grew up in West Virginia. My father was a coal miner. My mother did domestic work. She worked in the houses of folks just to help us to make ends meet. It was I have 7 other siblings, so I'm right in the middle. So my father had 11th grade education, and one claim to fame is we both finished high school the same year. So he stressed education for us, such that would be a way out of coal mining. So so he went back and got his GED same year I graduated. It was 1965. So I got an older brother who actually started the Air Force journey, because all 5 boys went to the Air Force.
Mm-hmm.
And he
all
started,
5, really?
we went to the Air Force, primarily because he went to the Air Force. So we just thought that was just a great way to get out of coal mining, because we basically grew up in abject poverty, which means that when everybody else say poor, P-O-O-R, we were po. We could not afford the O and the R. So that's what abject poverty is. But we were a homogeneous family. Grew up in the church. Church was one of our guiding forces as far as how we kind of got our lives. We all were grew up in the church, but always were considered as pretty good kids. So you grew up in a community where everybody knew the Johnsons. So if I messed up, everybody who knew me would spank me and send me home with a note. And then I get home, I get it again. So it's one of those communities where everybody kind of watched after each other. So great family. We still have family Zooms every month. And so we just have been living, I'm the only one out in Colorado. Everybody else went to Maryland, Virginia, kind of on that part of the country. So sure. I'm the one that came out west, as they say.
That's great. So I want to ask you, in terms of growing up as the son of a coal miner, I mean, that's a dangerous occupation, number
Absolutely,
one, you know, and let alone the hazards that go along in terms of black lung and things like that. And but I'm just wondering, I mean, in terms of these coal mining companies, in terms of how they would pay their workers and things like that, you feel like there was a lot of exploitation that took place there in terms of just...
absolutely. But they took care of families. So we lived in a coal mining community, and the coal mines had their own grocery stores, mm-hmm. had their own basically community centers, and they had their own money. It was called scrip.
Right.
So when you go in the shop, I remember going there with my mother. It was like 8 of us, and we were all in a line together, all 8, like 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So my mother would line us up, huddle us up, and say, "Now we're going in this grocery store. I don't want you to ask for shit. I don't want you to touch shit. So we looked at each other to say, that means you too, David. Because if you mess up, we all would get it. But it's just the discipline we had. A lot of information your parents would give to you, it was heartfelt because they know they worked so hard to get us where we are. We did not want to disappoint them in life.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
So did any of your brothers ever work in the mines or anything?
No, none of us worked in the mine.
No.
Like I said, my father took us all down in the mines as a part of take your kid to work.
Sure.
Go down in the mine, and you saw where they work. It's just amazing, the environment. And then they had yellow canaries around. I said, God, that's a treat. You guys got yellow canaries here? Is that for entertainment? He said, no. If they stop chirping, that means there's a gas leak, and we need to get out of here. Because that was a technology in those days as far as sign of danger.
Right. No, I'm familiar with that.
Oh, you
sure.
okay?
Yeah. The canary in the mine there for sure. That's I think we even use that as an expression now. Even it still's around there. So how old were you then when you left West Virginia and joined the military?
I was 17. We had to fudge my little date of birth to get in, but we were smart. I remember, I think we started the concept of homeschooling. Because I told you I was right there in the middle, and you probably can imagine I was the most talkative one. I knew everything. I would come home, oh, Dad, Mom, I got E's for excellence. I got A's. And then all of a sudden, my dad was check everybody's report card. He said, Bruce got a D. What do you say about that, Johnny? Well, they call me Dusty. My nickname was Dusty growing up, primarily because, like you said, in the coal mine, I would sit on the banks waiting for your dad to come out of the coal mine, and I go home, my butt would be dusty. So thank God he dropped the butt. Now he just called me Dusty.
Dusty butt.
Yeah. But you know, we had a sense of value growing up. So I got an A. So your brother got a D. How do you explain that? So he said, we got a new rule. If he gets a D, then I'm going to get you because you did not help your brother. So I mean that, okay, so is that all of us? He said, no, I'm talking to you right now. So we would get at the kitchen table and we would have this come to Jesus meeting. David, how you doing in math? Because what we would do, if we realized that one person was not holding the end of the bargain, studying, then we know Dad was going to get us. So we'll get you. So we started the concept of homeschooling. We just helped each other throughout education and life. It's like you leave nobody behind, especially your brother and your sister. You got to make sure you take care of them. So when I joined the military was not my first option. But I finished second in my high school class, salutatorian, and I got scholarship. But I realized I could not afford to go to college, even with a scholarship, because my mom and dad, we had 6 other siblings at home. So what we did is, going to the military, all the brothers started sending allotments to the parents to take care of the sisters and get them through college, get them through life, because eventually, coal mines kind of closed down.
Right.
So Dad had to get another job. So he got a job working for Acme Truck Company. It used to crack us up because you would see it on that commercial with that cartoon, the Road Runner and the Acme truck, and we would see that and crack up. But so I joined the military and with a friend of mine, and haven't looked back since.
So tell us about your military career. What did you start out doing when you were in the Air Force?
Well, let me tee it up for you, because I think that the military experience for a young black guy coming out of West Virginia was basically kind of an eye-opener because I went to a segregated school. Integration was not in vogue, but it was. You could see it was coming.
Right.
So what we did was joined the Air Force, went to Lackland, tested pretty well. Everything was kind of okay in a sense. Then we were going to get our assignments, and the assignments were like, God, please don't let me get Tule Green, and please don't let me get some mine out in North Dakota or someplace you didn't want to go. So we were going to Amarillo for training, and then we were going to a hotel, all of us, to have drinks, and then all of a sudden, the guy said, we went upstairs. The guy said, you can't go upstairs. I said, there's 20 of us. I said, so I guess the stairs must be broken. He stopped me again. He said, you cannot go upstairs. Meaning you as a black person can't get upstairs. So I'm going like, I'm serving this country, getting ready to take a tour of duty at Vietnam. I don't even know any of these people. And you throw me out of a hotel.
Wow.
But then you come to grips with the fact that it's just not about you. There's points in your life when you realize what is the better good you could do as a person. And it was just not the time to even entertain that. I felt sorry for the guy who told me that because he had to know what I was doing. But I felt sorry for the guys who went upstairs knowing I could not go upstairs. So as this little Hispanic guy and I, black and brown, said, I'm not going upstairs either. So I said, you know what, that's good, because that's the guy, when we in Vietnam serving a tour, I know this guy would have my back. These other 18 guys going up the stairs, it was a question mark, because when you commit to a cause, you commit to the cause of being in the military. And there's no race, creed, or national origin when it comes to dealing with military, Air Force, and the duties you have to perform.
Right.
Yeah. So that was my first experience. So somehow I tested in high-end administration. So my first real assignment was, after I went from Amarillo, was Beale Air Force Base in California, just outside of, close to Sacramento. So I was administrative specialist, but they put me in education. And I said, this is an opportunity. So I had to promote education to the airmen. So I went to school. And all the other guys started going to school. So when I got to the Air Force, I had an AA degree. So that was a jump start because I wanted to go to college, but I couldn't afford to go to college. So I went to college in the military. And then next thing you know, that was the first 2 years of my service. I got an AA degree, and then a lot of fun stories being in the Air Force with some of the friends you meet,
Sure.
Some of the relationships you make, because they're last forever.
Yeah.
And oddly enough, I realized I was calling everybody by their last name. It's not JJ, but Johnson.
Right.
And eventually I realized why. Because when we went to Vietnam, you didn't want to get too close to guys that you see one day, and next thing you know, what happened to David? It's like, ooh. So you start calling everybody just a last name as a matter of just culture.
Depersonalized things.
Yeah, depersonalized thing, because otherwise it was a situation where I always wanted to be a doctor. So this is for kids who think the road less traveled is always straight. You have to make sure that you stay focused on the road. Like Yogi Berra, the famous baseball player for the Yankees, was a great philosopher. He said, when you come to a bend in the road, take it.
He was great.
Yeah, wasn't he great?
He was.
So if the military was a bend in the road for me, it was the best choices for me as a young black guy coming out of West Virginia who wanted to go to college, because the GI Bill made it real.
Oh.
So I went to finish my rest of my college and went to medical school and got my first house, and all that stuff just like fell into place. It kind of takes that words off the mind, but the military was instrumental in the fact that anytime I got ventured off that road, less travel, there's always like a ram in the bush. Someone in your life that says, you know what, you're smart enough. You should go to medical school. Because, you know, I started to stay in the military. I got an offer to stay in. You can be an officer. I said, but can you promise I'm going to be a doctor? And go to a medical 3 cent now. So I said, okay. So it was an easy decision.
So let's back up a little bit, because we've just jumped from 17, 18-year-old kid going in the Air Force to being a doctor. It's like there's a lot of years in between there.
Yeah, a lot of years in between. Yeah.
So what year is it that you went in service?
I was there in 63 to 67, active duty. In 67, 69, it was your inactive time. So 70, I was basically done.
Well, you're talking about that, whatever your experience at this hotel or wherever it was, and I was just thinking the whole civil rights thing that was taking place around that period there, and so, because that was about the time that I was in 65.
Yeah.
But it was the same thing there, and that whole shift that was taking place at that time. So you were in then from like 63 to 67 active, and then you were inactive for that. So you got out, you went back to school then. Is that how that worked? Or?
Well, it's like this. I went to Vietnam, and you asked me, well, how long you was in Vietnam?
I said
11 months, 21 days, 17 hours,
and 36 seconds.
Now, when I finished my tour of duty, we kind of came back to San Francisco, Presidio, or someplace you kind of de-embark or whatever.
Right.
You release. And the guy goes like, we don't have an assignment for you. But I think I was going to Westover Air Force Base in Massachusetts, and I went like, he said, you can get out. I said, well, I thought I signed up to re-up. He said, no, you're not hearing me. He said, you can get out. So it's like, okay. So I got out, and at that time I enrolled went back to West Virginia and went back to Marshall University to finish my last 2 years. And one thing about being at Marshall, it was in 1970, and that's the year we lost our whole football team on a plane crash.
That's right, okay, because I knew that.
Yeah, we are Marshall, and I knew a lot of the athletes. I was president of the student body, and that was big. So from We Are Marshall, GI Bill, went to University of Cincinnati, and GI Bill, got my master's degree in embryology, developmental biology. But I was always a history buff. So all of a sudden, I was in the airport in Cincinnati coming home. And I said, no, the cab driver said, what's your major? I said, biology, and I'm thinking about pre-med. He said, that's my major. I was like, why are you driving a cab? So I said, okay, I changed my major to pre-med.
Yeah.
So from that point on, after finishing grad school, I got accepted into Meharry Medical School in Nashville, Tennessee. Yeah, so that's how I got into medical school.
That's great. So your GI Bill carried you through your master's or something pretty close to it?
Med school too.
Med school too?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a blessing.
Yeah, no, absolutely it was. That's So let's back up a little bit more here, back to your Air Force days or whatever then. So did you work primarily in administrative kind of things?
Yeah, administrative specialist, then I was the education specialist. Basically dealing with like policies, the education policies, how you write it up, how you promote it to airmen,
Sure.
so they can make sure they do make sure education is one of the hallmarks or keys to life. I look at everything we deal with, whether it's education, healthcare, everything across the board. Education is the key. So sometimes we blame young adults for things that they have done in life, get really judgmental. But our shortcoming is, have we taught them? So they mess up. So all of a sudden you become judgmental, and we always make decisions about people, how they look, whether you're fat. We got a fat joke. If indeed you're gay or lesbian, that's a joke. I mean, African American, immigrants, and we need to leave that mentality as people and realize, how would God want us to treat each other? With some dignity and respect and love, and we have lost our way. So I was trying to be a soldier to say, if someone was looking at me, what would they see? And what would I want them to see? I don't want them to see a drunk, somebody who is just foul mouth.
Right.
No. So all of a sudden, you just don't know who's looking at you. So a lot of airmen start looking at me because I was in education and said, hey, you got your AA degree, so tell me how I can do that. So we went to night classes at on the base, but also at Yuba Junior College, Yuba City Junior College. So that was just part of my education and getting my first crack at administrative but education specialist.
That's great. It's like, I think, anyway, obviously, these have been profoundly motivating things for you in your life there. And it started early on, as you say. With your mother in the homeschool.
Right, exactly.
That whole thing.
Family,
I get it.
Yeah.
So, what about you? We're still with your military experience. We want to dwell on that a little bit here. It's like,
that's
so
what
what was
it?
Yeah, right, exactly. Lest we forget. Yeah. Anyway, what was the best part of your service, that you experienced here?
I think my affiliation and association with my fellow vets.
Yeah.
It's like you never ever could imagine a boy from West Virginia who's 17, 18, and another kid from Monroe, Louisiana, another guy from Kansas, realize how much you have in common.
Right.
When you consider what we're talking about. I don't care what your race is, or either ethnicity, but I think that you get there and you get to know people for the sake of being a person. So I tell you, I have relationships that I still have today that are established in the military, and it's lifelong. It's like you made a commitment.
Sure.
For life. It's like being in a fraternity.
Kind of.
So if you were in coming out of state and you look me up, you would come to me in Colorado and we'd go out and I would say, you know what, your money's not good. I got you. But it's just how we used to do things. I remember we went in California, had the West Coast Relays, which was a track event like the Olympics. I got a bunch of guys who said, we got to go because there's Tommy Smith and all these fabulous runners. So they got the money together and got a car. That car was on its last leg when we bought it. We went to Fresno from Sacramento, and the car broke down. We're all sleeping in rooms, 2 to a bed. I'm sleeping with another guy. But we're there for a track meet. Nothing else. So all of a sudden, we're trying to go back to the base, and the car broke down, and we couldn't get back to the base. So we had to come up with a scheme. I said, so why don't we call it Red Cross? That was the most embarrassing moment of my life, to be rescued by the Red Cross going on
A road trip.
a road trip. But we laugh about that stuff like that today.
Sure.
Yeah, some of your adventures you have, it's just heartwarming.
Yeah, that's great. Well, that sounds, I was just going to ask you about any particularly humorous events. That qualifies, you know?
Yeah,
That's kind of interesting for sure. So were you awarded any medals or citations, anything when you were in
yeah,
service?
I got the Air Force citation
Really? Commendation kind of thing?
and accommodation.
Yeah.
And then recently I got a Vietnam medal. That was
You wanna
yeah.
show
That
us?
was. Let me grab these. I don't know. I pulled these out of the,
The attic or
yeah,
whatever.
I had an attic. You know what?
Storage.
All my diplomas and stuff is in storage or either in the
It's
garage, but it's not in. So this was one
easily
medal.
accessible. Yeah,
One medal here that I got. I think upside down.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There we go. Okay.
It fell apart.
It's falling apart.
I think that's the record. That's the accommodation medal.
There you go.
And then here's one that I recently got. It's the Vietnam, being a Vietnam veteran.
Yeah.
I got that. Closer.
Yeah. Right. That's good.
And then I got, this is the Navy Special Welfare Community Award. Because when I got out of the Navy, when I got out of the Air Force, I had to pick up things that I really had a passion for. And this is the Navy Foundation. And they take care of the widows of fallen soldiers. So that was one of the things I have been involved in since I left the military. Not the Air Force, but Navy. I got a scrapbook, but I think you don't want to get into that yet. But I have a, and my wife says it's not a scrapbook, because a scrapbook you take pictures from each chronologically through life.
No.
This is just the military for the 4 years, so she called it I forgot what she called it, but I said it's still a scrapbook
it's
to
a
me.
scrapbook.
Yeah.
You want to
Yeah,
bring that out here? Let's take a look at
we
that.
can see it.
As we're doing.
So you probably won't recognize me because you go like, were you ever that young?
Yeah, excuse me. Yeah, no.
So here is one. I was the Air Force Airman of the Month as well as Airman of the Quarter.
Really?
Yeah, and when I was in Beale Air Force Base, and this is me in a younger life. When I got out of the military, I had the opportunity to grow a beard and grow an afro. Because you can't do that. Shave your head off.
Back in the 70s there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is some of the guys I was with. You can see me. Look how skinny I am. You can see just pictures of me and some of the guys we were. And this is always a very popular picture. As the Air Force, you're in front of the Alamo.
So
Okay.
you were an athlete too?
Yeah, and I was a star basketball player for the Air Force Squadron baseball team. I mean, the basketball team. So when...
Yeah, may I see this? It's
Yeah.
Like, so this is you in front of the Alamo, huh?
Yeah, Alamo.
Defending the Alamo, and this is you as well then?
Yeah.
Without this goatee?
Yeah.
Look at you. Wow.
Yeah, that's
So this is you with your jump shot here?
a jump shot. I showed that to my grandkid. He went like, Pop, that ain't you. That's way too young for you. I said, kid, I was young one day. Come on. So here's some of the guys I used to hang around with. In the Air Force Base, you're playing cards. I went home on vacation, and then I had my sister up in the top picture. You see her? Yeah. And here are the guys that we're on the team together.
You got to pull yourself out. Which one are you?
Aha! You can't guess? Skinny? Seriously?
Front row?
Yes.
To the,
Yeah. Let me hold on. Let me see. This guy right here.
Is that right?
Is that the one you had?
No.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
So this is from the Air Force or
That's Air
school or?
Air Force. That's Air Force. This is all Air Force.
So was this was your basketball team?
Yeah, basketball team.
Okay, okay.
And I was going to show you the girl who wrote me a Dear John letter, but I'm not. She may sue me for
Defamation of character.
And she left me. I pull them out when someone like you come to the house and asks me something about my background. So
these are all former girlfriends there?
get out of here. No. But yes.
Jeez,
my wife doesn't see this. But,
yeah, right. I'm telling June.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
when did I don't know when how long have you and June been together?
We got married in my junior year of medical school.
Is that right?
Yeah. She was. Now this is about June for a minute. So I met June, and she was a singer on the Billy Graham Crusade.
Really?
And if you tell June this, because I can't leave this room that I told her, but it's told her filmed. But June was the first Miss Black America. You can probably
Yeah, she's
see
beautiful.
that. Yeah,
She knows
yeah.
she is, right?
So when I saw her, she fell off stage,
She fell off stage.
and
Really?
Tom Landry picked her up, and I said to my mother, I got to meet this girl, because we were going to the same school.
Right.
I was going to Meharry, and she was going to Fisk. And then when I met her, basically it was kind of a blind date. But I knew who it was. But we went to Fur's Cafeteria. And for a medical student, that was big money. I mean, $5 or something. you eat all you could eat. And then it took a month. And we were in the... She asked me for a date. I said, I can't go on a date because I got to study. I got to cut this cadaver. I got to get it down. So all of a sudden, she followed me to the cadaver lab. I said, this girl got some potential. And I'm sitting there, well, let's get a sandwich. We're eating sandwich over cadaver. And I'm like, so within a month's time, I had to get the nerve to ask her to marry me. So I went to the bathroom, get my nerves, and it was a C4 towel. And I wrote, will you marry me? And slid it on the table. And she said, yes. We still have that C4 towel today. And that's 48 years ago.
Wow. A great story.
Yeah, 48 years and 3 kids and 2 grandkids.
That's incredible. I mean, she's really extraordinary individual. I
Thank
think,
you.
I've
Yeah.
known that about, and recognized that all along. She's smart and classy, the whole shot.
I like that classy.
No, she is. She's a very elegant person, I think.
Yeah, she said to me, she's the one that responsible for this interview. She said, I gotta interview you for you. I said, fine. I trust her, and she is my my manager.
Okay.
All men need a manager.
Particularly you, huh?
Yeah. So all of a sudden she said, now you have to dress appropriately for who you are in life. So after about 10 outfits, she came up with this to wear. But you begin to trust her, everything she's about, and her claim to fame is that she wanted to come work at the VA.
Oh.
That was her bucket list. And she just loved veterans and what they represent. And she kind of orchestrated for me to get all my care here. She said, you're going to see this doctor here, so it's all the care is here, and it's really there's continuity of care, and it's just in one place. So like 48 years, we've been in Colorado for 40, got here in 80, 43, 44 years of it. And the other time she was in medical school with me and undergrad, and she appreciates what I am and what I'm trying to be. And she said, well, first of all, we need you in church. I said, but that's Sunday football. She said, I need you in church. So I got involved in the church. She's a pastor's daughter, preacher's kid.
Really,
So we're in church, and then I became a deacon in the church, head of men's ministry. God kind of moves and shakes you in ways that you don't even know, and you think you're ahead of him, but you're not. You need to stop and listen and see where he wants you.
right.
Yeah.
Well, very interesting. That's like, well, that's something. So you were a junior in medical school. Then when you met, you got married. Then and
A month later.
a month later. Wow, didn't waste any time, did you? Huh?
Yeah,
It's
I knew she was the right one. I
Yeah.
was not going to wait. So all of a sudden, I went to ask her dad for a hand, and she's from Fort Worth, Texas. So all of a sudden, the first thing that happened, I got off the airplane looking like John Shaft, which was really not a good impression for someone.
big fro. And
Big fro, and I had a black leather coat on. And he said, you sure you want to marry this guy? He's probably shell-shocked. He's been in Vietnam. But began to grow on him, and we loved her father. We called him Grandman because he's a grand man. He was a preacher. He would get on pulpit and speak loud, and so everybody thought he was just a grand man. The way so kind of sticks with him, but nice guy.
Yeah, that's great. So, and you have 3 children?
Yeah, three kids. Kelly is the oldest. Morgan, and then I got a son named Taylor. Kelly is 44. Morgan is 40, and Taylor is 31. One's in Utah. Taylor's in Salt Lake City, Utah. He's in film with Robert Redford, Sundance Film Theater. He went to Seattle Film Institute
Right?
for his graduate education. Morgan is a neurologist, followed in her dad's footstep. And she said she was empowered to go into medicine when she went with me. I took her to work at Rose, and she said, the way people looked at you and respected you, but more important is how you treated them. She said, you treated the janitor just as well as you treat the head of the hospital. Sure. So she's a neurologist in Sacramento, and then Kelly, the oldest daughter, is in Miami. She's working for a rental car company from Germany, Sixt or something like that, a new one that's trying to get relocated, but she's in Miami, and I'm blessed. I got 2 grandkids, Vincent and Nora. So it came to the point, what are they going to call me as a granddad? I didn't want to be granddad. So I said, maybe G-Daddy, something hip. My name is Pop Pop.
From G-Daddy to Pop Pop.
And it sticks. And I didn't know how popular Pop Pop was throughout the world. Pop Pop but that's my name. Someone say, hey, Pop Pop. I'm like, okay, duck, a dodge. Hey, what? I'm here.
That's so funny. That's like, well, that's really great. So let's go back to your career then. It's like you went through medical school, and once again, where did you go to medical school?
I went to Meharry. Meharry is a predominantly African-American medical school in Nashville, Tennessee.
Okay.
And I went there right after I finished grad school. So, undergrad, grad, and then. So I went there, and Nashville, Tennessee was a great experience. That's where I met my wife. But the encounter I had was, you go to that school, and from day one, you're assigned families that you just have to know and adopt and learn their history. And that's not the way they teach medicine anymore.
Mhm.
You're not going to get a 5-minute visit.
Right.
But I got inundated to healthcare. But I thought that, and this is how you think in life. Culturally, I'm Black, so I'm going to be a Black doctor that serves a Black community. I was so wrong. I'm not a Black doctor. I'm a doctor who happens to be Black. And that's the thing that I had to alleviate from my mind, because some of the discriminatory things you have in life, you create. My kids, you got to be the smartest kids. You got to be smarter than the average white kid. You got to do this. I'm like, why am I telling her that? That's reverse discrimination. my daughter goes like, Dad, you're giving me this pitch. Put my armor on. You got to be smart. Dad, I'm in the 3rd grade.
Give me a break.
So you see the pressure we put on kids, and we create some of the biases that kids have. Like a lot of it's acquired from families.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people aren't born prejudiced. That's acquired through life when they associate with people at the home, people at church, or through communities. So that's one of the things that I wanted to pass on to my kids. You can know who you are, and don't put any limitations upon yourself. So I come to Colorado, finished my residency in St. Louis, and said, let me find a place to live. I'm not going back to West Virginia. I'm not going to Texas. You're too close to your dad and mom, so we fall out. I don't have a chance. You can run to mom and dad. So I ran out of money in Denver, so I had to get a job. So Denver Health was my first job. City and County of Denver, I worked there. And then I was the only Black OBGYN doctor in this 4-state area for the longest.
One moment, in terms of when you got your MD, did you do a specialty then?
Yeah, I did OBGYN training in St. Louis.
Okay.
St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis is a Jesuit school.
Okay.
And I picked the school out primarily because I am a pro-life doctor, and you can go like, well, what does that mean? I don't believe in abortions per se, but I believe a woman has her right to exercise her choice, and hopefully she's responsible for it. But I do give out contraceptions, and I do offer options for somebody who has a baby. About you can give it up for adoption. So any other school I went to kind of make you do, put pressure on you to do certain things. Otherwise, you can't fight that big 800-pound gorilla that says, if you don't do abortion, we're going to kick you out of here.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to St. Louis University. So my career has always been kind of protected, because as an African-American doctor, the system is got a lot of built-in biases. And if I don't follow the guidelines and protocol as a person of color, then I can get kicked out of school.
Mm-hmm.
But I have difference of opinion when it comes to healthcare and how it's run, and how some of the not diversity, what do you call it, healthcare disparities are in healthcare. Some of the biggest prejudices are in doctors and how they see people. We don't deal with language. So if you speak a different language, next,
Right.
or either you don't take the time to deal with social economics, just patients who are at risk, and primarily women. So I got into healthcare primarily to make sure that I protect the right to innocence of women, primarily African American women who were they had hysterectomies were unwarranted, tubal ligations because you think you're having too many kids, just a lot of disparity. So I thought I could change things, and it has, but you can't be a lone ranger out here trying to fight healthcare. But whatever I do makes a difference, because we started a Christian medical society that appeals to doctors who think that religion has a big part to play in healthcare. we look at minority doctors, don't feel like they're a part of a system. We started a minority medical society that take care of black and brown doctors. Say, hey, welcome, and this is what we need to look at. And we need to get in the trenches and make sure people that look like us get proper access to care and care. So I don't know where we are in the question you asked me, but
No,
yeah,
these are important things you're talking about.
yeah. But I think that a lot of times you wonder, I'm like, what am I doing in Denver, Colorado? This is the last place on earth. Airport snowed under. I mean, every time I look at the news, a blizzard in Denver. So God puts you in places, and it's not by accident. So I'm here with my wife, and then I said, honey, just give us a minute. I think Denver's a great place for us. So we decided to stay here. So I got recruited to work in the community because they are black doctors. So all of a sudden, I moved to Aurora, which is way out west. And then all of a sudden, I was in surgery at St. Luke's, and my wife called me, and it was an emergency. I said, oh my God. So I had one kid. Then I said, so what is it, honey? I said, put on the speakerphone. She said, I saw another black person in the supermarket. I said, well, go up and say something to her. She said, JJ, I saw myself in the mirror. Get me out of here. So I moved to Denver. And then with time, we realized this is probably one of the best places you could ever raise kids and live in Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, that's great. That's like, I'm not a native. I've only been here
I'm
about
not either.
5-6 years, whatever. It's like, but no, I can see your point on that. You know, it's like, I think that.
And there was a need too. There was a need. But when I opened my office near St. Luke's, when we started our office, June was my receptionist, and I was the doc. And then in the back, we had a little nursery for my little Kelly, who was maybe like 2 or 3. And then I'm waiting for patients to come in, and there were no black patients. I said, so aren't there blacks in this city? The population is related to the graphics. I mean, like demographics, only what 2% were black at that time.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, I said, I went to medical school to take care of black people.
No.
And now I'm here. I said, God, guess what? You got me on this one. I'm a doctor that's going to take care of everybody. So I need to eliminate that thing about being a doctor for black people. I'm a doctor for people, black, brown, immigrants. So that was a big learning point for me. It's you are a person of the world, and the world it's just not me. It's not about me. It's about kind of the better good that I could do for your fellow man,
Sure.
or for anybody you come in contact with. So I wanted to be the best doctor I could be, regardless of what my ethnic background was.
That's great. I think that's like, it's important to see beyond, through all that, to that,
Oh yeah,
that being underneath it, whatever, that soul, if you will.
and you have to see it
Yeah.
and kind of work your way through it,
No.
because it's not scripted.
Well, I was just thinking as you were describing here, getting out of the service in the early 70s, and that whole period of the 70s, remember? And there
Yeah.
was a lot of militancy at that point, you know?
Oh yeah,
A lot of anger, resentment, all the kind of stuff that was going down. Not to say that it's not still profoundly.
yeah, it's no problem.
You know?
Well, I think we're trying to work on it, but
yeah. It's like, but I think maybe even in your own so-called evolution, if you will, in terms of what and how you see yourself and your relationships with others, and your practice, all that kind of thing. Like,
yeah, because some of the relationships that I had growing up with white policemen, even in the military, and kind of growing up in the South in a way, is something you have to not assume in your life, because it could make you toxic. And then become toxic, it affects you in more ways than you can imagine. And then you become resentful. And then, but how does that relate when it comes to my kids? If they see me as a man and they see a hateful black man who's always clinging on to the past, as opposed to what's ahead for the future, because I'm gonna make it better for them and make it better for any person that I come in contact with. So those are things you have to. You don't forget. You have to put it in a proper place, because history is such that if you don't learn from history, then you tend to repeat it.
Right.
You tend to repeat the same mistakes on prejudice and all the things. So one of the things that we're hoping for today is, and the military probably is a little ahead of the rest, because in the military we put race aside and we became one, because the common cause is not about us, but what we're going to do to help protect the interests and the welfare of this country and its citizens. So the military is a serious profession. And people think, oh, the military, you joined the military because you couldn't do anything else. Yeah, wrong. I joined the military because it was an opportunity. And I look at it today as one of the instrumental things that was so important in my life, because who's to say, as a young black guy in West Virginia, I could have been on the streets. I could have been a drug addict.
Sure.
Who knows? But grounded on the fact is that the family component, father, mother, family dynamics, helping each other, and you join the military, and it's like you got to sign in the right profession. It's like I'm not going to join the Marines. I'll probably die in basic training, as opposed to going to the Air Force, where I thought it was more suited for me with my educational experience and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's great. So how long did you practice medicine then?
40 years. 80,
Are you still practicing?
Well, I'm not doing clinical medicine.
Okay.
I'm doing non-clinical medicine. Non-clinical means that I'm still involved in healthcare policy.
Mm-hmm.
And the policy kind of goes back to what I was saying about helping the less fortunate. We can say women, for example, women of color, black women, have 3 times the infant and maternal morbidity and mortality rate than any group of people. And that fascinated me. It's like, why? So I'm saying that, well, look at me as a doctor. Am I not doing a good job? And then that's questionable, and we'll come back to that. But it's like the societal things that women have to deal with. Now, we can say women of color, but we're talking about women in general who come into the healthcare system to have a baby, and they're trying to experience joy and happiness, but they come in with fear and anxiety about dying in childbirth.
No.
Something is inherently wrong with that. So we're doing healthcare policy. I'm on boards to make sure that you're kind of at the table of healthcare and not part of the menu, because the menu affects people that look like me, look like you, look like anybody. So that's my passion right now, is women and children, and it could be anyone. It could be you trying to get into the healthcare system to get a kidney transplant, and then all of a sudden you go to the emergency room and somehow you misdiagnose. They put you back out into the system, and you realize maybe the healthcare system is not, the model is not what we need in this country when it comes to urgent care, the young, and the aged population, because it's cost driven,
Right.
and then it's not quality driven, because we don't do a good enough job at the point of entry dealing with patients. And our biggest drawback is that we don't communicate well. It's like me, one of the biggest things that I had to learn is to learn how to communicate. And I learned how to communicate it by being quiet. and listen to what the patient was saying and not cutting her off. That took 40 years. So now to teach that to a whole group of doctors today is like, good luck. It's just like, it's just the millennials and Gen Zs or whatever, and this is across the board. It's just not taking the time to do the best possible job they can, regardless of the job.
This is a whole other conversation,
Yeah,
maybe, in terms of just healthcare in general, but in terms of in terms of a systemic problem.
But
Okay?
put it in the military.
Yeah.
In the military,
Yeah.
I was in the military, and one of the things I had a desire to do was go work in the clinic, in the dispensary, help out people who were sick. And then it's like all of a sudden, when you look at me and you, we're in the military, we're fighting the war, and you said, JJ, I need to take a break. Incoming fire. If you don't hold the ground, you take a step, I'm gonna shoot you in the head. You stay the course. And we don't stay the course in life, we don't have the commitment, and we think everything is just like, bam, bam, thank you, ma'am. I mean, the work doesn't go in. The work is part of it. You have to put the time and effort in to get the satisfaction out of what you've done in life. You can't just think it's just going to be on a silver platter.
Right.
Well, that's a military component of the.
Well, anyway, that's something we could explore much more deeply. I don't know if this is the place to do it, but it's like, anyway, for sure.
That's a beer conversation.
It is. So let's see. Life lessons from the military. You pretty much covered that kind of in some ways, just as we were talking about that. In terms
Yeah,
of
but I think the biggest one that I learned is stay committed to your ambition or your desires or your dream. And don't think that, like I said, the road less traveled, all had to be straight. The military kept me going in the direction I need to go. It wasn't like I took a step backwards or sideways. It got me in another area where I could be better suited to go forward. So a lot of these people who come in to the military thinking that you can discover any occupation you ever want to consider, join the military. It sets you up for that in all walks of life. It's just that you have to make sure you're committed to that. So I wanted to be a doctor. The military did not hamper that at all. It enhanced that.
Yeah, that's true. So let's see. Is there anything you miss about the service? Is there anything that you're glad that you left behind?
Miss.
Yeah.
Not miss, but I'm fond of the time I was in the military. Yeah. I don't regret anything about the military. It's like I don't regret telling people that I got my start from the military.
Right.
I got my start. It's like I don't regret telling people I'm from West Virginia, not Virginia. I don't have any regrets from anything in my life because I think it's all kind of directed to where I wanted to go. And I think the military taught me patience, directions. I was compliant. If you tell me to dig a ditch, and the next day you tell me to cover it back up, I'm not going to be the first person to ask why. I'm going to do it by a committee to say, you know what, that was odd. But it's like sometimes you have to be compliant. It's like I make a bed today. It's the first thing I do when I get out of bed. I make a bed. I put 4 corners in that bed. I make that bed. I put everything in order. And that's being in the military. You got a locker. You got a foot locker. And everything has to be in there when it comes to inspection. If you don't have it right, guess what? The whole squadron may have been. No, so that taught me a lot about just life.
I'm sure, that's for sure. So I was just looking here. It's like, what message would you like to leave for future generations who will view this interview? Anything in particular that you? I mean, you've covered a lot of stuff here.
I kind of around. I think that's one of my shortfalls in life is you give me a question, it's like you better say stop.
No,
Yeah.
run with
No,
it.
no, I think that growing up as I did, regardless of circumstances, you have to make sure you kind of take ownership to who you are and what you want to go. It's like don't be willing to point the finger at somebody else for your shortcomings in life. Sure, I may have grown up in abject poverty, but in a ideal home life, Christian based, community based. I remember growing up as a kid. There's an old thing on Easter that says, if you bite the head of a butterfly off, you get a new suit.
You get
A new suit. And all kids want a suit for Easter to
Yeah.
wear to church. And I was like, I'm not biting the head of a butterfly off for nothing. So what it turned out is that I got my brother's old suit. And then my brother got my old suit. So we figured out a way to do it, and it was clean, and it was done with respect. So sometimes we think that everything falls upon a silver platter. We're so willing to blame everybody for our faults in life. We look at the world today full of trials and tribulations, and then you look at, look in the mirror first and see yourself, and see what you can do to make the world a better world. How do you want to be perceived in life? And every profession in life has a purpose, but it should be respected. So that's one thing I like about my wife. She walks through this hallway and she speaks to everybody. And I try to adapt that type of attitude. It's like everybody's job is important. Everybody in life is important, and they need to be respected. And I just make sure that I pass that on to my kids. And any kid who looks at me, he looks at me, hopefully black, white, and say, you know what? I like the way that guy represented himself. I want to be like him. And that's any person. And it could be a woman too. It's just like, hey, this guy here. But you know what? It's not without some trials and tribulations, ups and downs, and
it's the nature of the beast.
the nature of the beast. And thank God the military, when I was down, so it's always someone to pull you up, drag you up when you're sitting there. In Vietnam, 1819, you got kicked out of a hotel in Amarillo because you're black, and you're going like, why am I here? You ask a lot of whys in life. Hopefully you get the right answers to it. And I realized, you know what? I feel sorry for the guy who kicked me out the hotel, not me. Because I had a lot of promises. I put prejudice and things like that in the proper place, but it cannot be ignored because, like you said, it's still the beast that we deal with today.
Absolutely. It's like, So, Johnny, is there anything else you'd like to add that we have not covered in this interview?
No, it's been a lot of fun.
Good.
I'm basically retired, so I'm trying to find things to do in life to fill my days. So this was the highlight of my day. This interview, and then you get to the point where this is good, and I hope somebody got something from it, just like another young soldier or person who wanted to join the military, or somebody who's struggling with career choices, and realize that number one is that if I can do it, you can do it too.
Sure.
Coal miner's son.
There you go.
Yeah.
Coal miner's son. There it is. The title.
Yeah.
Right.
And when people who have doubts,
I was thinking about coal miner's daughter.
Yeah. Well,
sorry,
yeah.
yeah.
And people who you come in contact with who has doubts about you, and it's going to come up, because I remember in the military, I was getting a physical, and the guy who was doing the physical was an Army doctor, and then all of a sudden, I was just getting a physical. So it turns out, when I got out the military, I was going to college. Another doctor at the university went in and said, do you see what this doctor wrote on your record, your physical? He said, you were not even college material. I said, so this guy in the military, who I didn't know, had this impression about me. So all of a sudden I said, you know what, it's become a desire, a burning desire that I got to be successful. And when I get done, I got to go find this guy. So I got done with medical school. I found out where this guy was. I went to his hometown. He was dead. I said, where's his grave? This is not over with. I said, this is unsettling for him to say that about me. So I was setting up his grave, and I was getting ready to on his grave. It's like a voice came out of nowhere. I know it's God said, this man is not worth your urine. Move on. So that's what I'm telling Ollie. Move on when it comes to obstacles like that.
No.
Put it in its proper place.
Wow. Last question. Do you say Appalachia or what is the other pronunciation? How do you pronounce that?
But
Are you from Appalachia?
yeah, Appalachian, yeah.
Is that the correct pronunciation?
Yeah, whatever comes out of your mouth, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, here, I, somebody corrected me on that. I wasn't quite sure.
Really?
Yeah, and I've heard it pronounced differently anyway. Not a big deal. It was just a curious question. So.
What did they say?
Appalachia?
Tell that person go kick rocks. You know, have something he could concentrate on other than your enunciation of a word.
Johnny Johnson,
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah.
My pleasure.
My pleasure is yours.
Thank you.
Too. Yeah.
Oh, we have
We have a few more questions from Kyle.
Sure.
you want to sit down here, Kyle? And let me move out of this thing here.
Just remove the chair.
I'll move the chair. And are
Thank
you
you.
allowed to have that drink in the picture?
Oh, wire
Yeah,
up.
I was told not to by.
Oh, okay,
So introduce yourself and your background.
sure.
Oh,
I was gonna sit there. Just tell me when we're lined up and ready to go.
Yeah, you got to sit up straight.
Okay. Hi, Dr. Johnny Johnson. I'm Kyle Liston.
How you doing?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm an Army veteran, and my MOS was a 66G, which is an OBGYN nurse.
Ah,
So I was very curious when you said that you were an OBGYN doctor. And before that, I thought I heard you say that you were studying embryology.
yeah.
That's a very high speed category. It's something that not a whole lot of people go into.
Right.
So did you ever practice the embryology?
No, I tell you this. I was really interested in majoring in history. I was a history buff.
Mhm.
And my minor was biology.
Mhm.
And then as I got into my training in undergrad, I found out that there was not many people that were that successful with a history major. So I switched it to biology
Mhm.
and a minor in history, but I couldn't get into medical school with because I didn't have enough science courses, and
Right.
so what I did was went to University of Cincinnati and got a degree in developmental biology and embryology.
Mhm.
And I tell you, this is a good story. In embryology,
Mhm.
I had to come up with a master's dissertation. So my dissertation was on the mating habits of chimney bats. I'm on the roof, chimneys, like a voyage, peering at bats having sex. Oh my God! I thought something in life has to get better than this. So that's when I dropped development biology and got totally pre-med. But it's like it was fascinating because all what I've done set me up to be kind of an OBGYN doctor.
Mhm.
Now I was not all into the OB part
Okay.
because I remember when I was in medical school, I didn't know what I wanted to be. So they sent me to Mount Bayou, Mississippi, and I was there. I went to there. I drove up, and the guy gave me a white coat and said, "You got a person in the delivery room, you got somebody in the ER, you got this and this," and he took off.
Okay.
So I went into the delivery room, and there was a lady there having her 10th baby.
Oh.
And I was going to deliver this baby, so I told the nurse, I said, "I'm delivering a baby. I don't know anything about birthing babies, all that." So all of a sudden, I said, "Pull the book out." So all of a sudden, the lady who's having the baby told me, "Just stand still and put your hands down."
Uh-huh.
She pushed it out. I got my first one down. So we got that. And then I said, "Dr. Johnson, there's another lady in another room." And so I rushed up to the other delivery room. It's only two. And then this lady's getting ready to have a baby. And I remember turning my back to her to make sure the table was, so you see where it's going.
Uh-huh.
Something went baloosh, and a baby hit the trash can.
Oh, no.
And then I said, pick up the baby. So all of a sudden we getting squared away. She said, "Doctor, you dropped my baby." I'm trying to ignore the.
Yeah.
And she kept asking, she kept pressing me. I said, "Lady, your baby hit the floor and dropped and cried on the first time it dropped. Sometimes we have to drop them 4 or 5 times to get them to cry." I said, where did that come from for me to think of that? And I said, maybe I should get better at this. So I got better at doing OB, but I love the GYN surgery. But the OB was fascinating because the lesson learned from that is you never turn your back. So when I deliver a baby, I always have one hand like this.
Right on the head.
So that's the lesson learned. It's like never turn your back on any situation in life. I always look at it straight on.
We had a doctor with narcolepsy. And he would fall asleep, but he always had his hand on the head. And you could see him leaning down. And it's like, "Dr. Miles," and he perks up like this. "Is she delivering yet?" He's back asleep.
So he didn't stay in OB long, did he?
Oh, he went into retirement after his career, and he died 4 months later.
Really?
Mowing the lawn, he had a stroke. Yeah.
Well, I'm in my first month of retirement, so I got to stay healthy.
You got to have a long life.
Oh yeah.
You're probably the healthiest person I've ever seen that was on a tour in Vietnam.
You know what? And also, I come here for my physical exam, and the doctors go like, "Why are you here?"
Uh-huh.
He said, "One vet here is on oxygen." One guy said, he said, "You jumping around here like you should." I said, "I need a physical."
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's a part of life. You take ownership to it and be as healthy as you need to be, but not like looking at the world today and blame them for being overweight, hypertensive, diabetic, or what.
Mm-hmm.
No, but I've had fun in medicine, but I want to take it to the next step.
Mm-hmm.
And how can I help other people get, want to go into medicine, doctor, nurse, midwife, encourage them, be there for them, and not discourage anybody, because medicine, we need good people, good nurses, good doctors. We need people who are committed to making sure best possible care. It's like, I had a guy who was, the shift was over with, 5:30, and the lady he had been with all day was getting ready to have a baby, and he left. I said, "Baby's about ready to come."
Yeah. He should have stayed with his patient.
I said, what other opportunities in life he's gonna step off from when he's needed, in marriage and relationships or whatever. But that was, you learn a lot of stuff in the military that kind of carries you through life.
It does. Yeah. Mm-hmm. What was your best experience in your OBGYN career?
Other than seeing my own kid born, primarily see some healthcare miracles. It's like a lot of times you know, when I first started medicine, I had an ego about like a fish this big. I remember once somebody asked somebody on the ward, they said, who's that black doctor? He said, because I had white coat on, white pants, white shirt. He said, that's Dr. Johnny Johnson, but he's thinking Jesus Christ. I said, well, okay. So what I became is less arrogant,
Mhm.
more humble, begin to appreciate every patient for what value they bring
Mhm.
to life, to themselves, and make sure I treat everyone the same. So I was this know-it-all doctor,
Mhm.
and lady was having a baby, and a nurse kept calling me and said, Dr. Johnson, she has to have a bowel movement. I said, well, for God's sake, have her go to the bathroom and have a bowel movement.
Uh-oh. Did you leave the baby in the toilet?
I heard some screaming in the bathroom.
Oh dear.
How humbling is that?
Uh-huh.
I was like, I need to start listening to people, but listening and learning from everybody and see the value they bring to
Mhm.
the whole profession. Because you're not on the pedestal and you can't do it by yourself.
Right.
So when we look at healthcare, I've taken an operating room to a classroom in the high school. So we have a doctor, a doctor's assistant, nurse, scrub nurse, circulating, the anesthesiologist, the CNA, the instrument tech, and the person cleans the room.
Right.
And we define that it takes all these people to have successful surgery, not just me. And if you want to go into medicine, there's so many options for you.
Yeah.
You can be an assistant, you can be a midwife, you can be a PA, you can be a physician assistant. If you want to be in medicine, look at X-ray technician, ultrasound technician,
Mhm.
not just a doctor, and all the opportunities we have in healthcare to expose them, but expose them on a level that they can understand.
Right.
And so I just love just making sure that people who are interested in medicine help them along the way. But my biggest joy is just bringing quality of health, but also patients enjoy it, their experience. So if a
Right.
patient see me on the street and said, Dr. Johnson, thank you.
Mhm.
That means so much to me, not whether they paid their bill or not. That
It
thank you
does.
goes a long way.
That
And the fact
gratitude
that
is
they know us and we're part of their life because we helped them bring a baby into the world.
right. Now, with all the controversy about um, abortion care and care of women who undergo in vitro fertilization, how do you see that going in the state of Colorado?
I think in the state of Colorado, we're probably about ahead of most states. We're more progressive, but politics can't be in a lady's uterus.
Right.
You know, and when it comes to some of the situations about Roe versus Wade, to reverse that and have a Supreme Court do it without the input of a society, about patients to realize, like for me, I've had some terrible outcomes in OB. I've seen them when a baby, the heart was on the outside of the chest. I mean, the baby has one eye, cyclops, and the baby has no kidneys, and then it's incompatible with life. So what we used to define it is interruption of a non-viable pregnancy and not an abortion.
Right.
But to have a lady carry that full term and be responsible for the care of that baby, and the baby's suffering, give the baby morphine, is like somebody has just lost their mind. And how would you like that to be one of your loved ones? I don't know how we ever got to the point where, like, when it comes to healthcare, we talk about cost drivers, and they tell doctors, well, if you don't admit this patient to the hospital and discharge her, we'll give you bonuses.
Oh, I didn't know that was going on.
It's some dirty little secrets of healthcare that you don't even want to know. I'm writing a book about it, but it's not healthcare. It's not the patient. What about you? I mean, as a man, I know the difference between right and wrong,
Right.
and we do it, but we would oversee wrong versus right for political reason, and we do it in this country, and it's going to come back to haunt us big time. And hopefully, the younger generation will help us get there, because this older generation just, some of us need to die off.
Right. I'm concerned about the molar pregnancies, the
Right.
ectopic
Ectopic.
pregnancies, the twin-to-twin transfusions,
Yeah.
and having to do perinatal surgery to separate placentas and things.
Yeah.
They're just really hard questions and judgment calls.
Well, they're making the decision based upon an unborn baby,
Mhm.
baby in utero, as opposed to a mother.
Mhm.
In my mind, as a doctor, when it comes to the health of a mother or baby, there's no question. I'm gonna save the mom.
Right.
I'm not coming out to some dad and say, "I lost your mom, but I saved your baby because of this and that." No, I think that when the mom's health is in jeopardy due to a compromised pregnancy, you got to do the right thing. It's like in Louisiana, in certain states in the South, if you do anything to interfere with a non-viable pregnancy, they'll take your license, but they put a doctor in jail.
I heard about that.
That's like, what are we thinking?
We've criminalized pregnancy
Yeah.
in this country.
No, but we're going to get there, because see, my next step is healthcare policy.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like a rattlesnake,
Mm-hmm.
a cobra at the stage of healthcare. I'm sitting at the table, getting all the information and ready to strike
Right.
with facts and all other things like that. But I think, no, we're going to be fine.
Have you considered the use of methotrexate to stop a pregnancy from progressing, say an ectopic?
Ectopic, yeah. We do methotrexate, and that's been used quite frequently, but then they took methotrexate, Cytotec off. Did they take it off the market yet?
Cytotec, I was told, because I had an ectopic, I was told that they didn't use it for ectopic pregnancy.
No, but for miscarriage or something like that.
Because of the risk of
Right.
ruptured tube.
Right, the methotrexate would help resolve the...
Right,
yeah.
but that prevents fetal growth, and that stops the pregnancy.
Well, then again, if a fetus is in an abnormal location than what it should be, if it's in the tube and not in the uterus, the tube is about the size of a little, like my finger here. If a baby's in there growing, then that's going to rupture.
It is.
And that mom can bleed to death.
She can.
Yeah, so I think that that needs to be revisited, because that's otherwise women will have surgeries.
Right.
A lot of surgeries and then future pregnancies compromised if they start bleeding and hemorrhaging and scarring inside.
Mm-hmm. Now, what boards are you on that you're participating in these decision making?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm not on any board. This is meaningful, and I can get paid on.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm on. I was on Denver Health Authority Board for 12 years. So I'm on that. We recently started a minority medical society, which I'm president of, and we have like 50 members. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to do stuff like barbershop ministry. You know, you go to a barbershop, which is, I always call it a black man's country club. And you go in there and everybody's pontificating about everything else. And then we say, well, why you pontificate? Let me take your blood pressure.
Yeah.
Let me check your blood sugar and things like that. So that's becoming a ministry, barbershop ministry. Yeah. But then I got on the Goodwill board out of Colorado Springs. That's a good board. And then right now, I'm just waiting for the right board, because a lot of these boards have to be an active board.
Right.
And I can be a participant. That can change things, because I'm not going to be on the board because I'm the flavor of the month.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh, we got a minority guy on the board. I said, no. You got more than a minority on the board. You know, we're going to do moving and shaking and turn things around.
Right.
But I don't know if we can change healthcare boards in healthcare disparity until we address 4 major things in this country. And the first one is racism.
Mm-hmm.
Racism among healthcare workers, doctors, on how we treat people.
Mm-hmm.
Language with immigrants coming in right and left is like,
Yes.
you didn't get a translator, but I'm gonna learn to speak a little Spanish, but you can learn to speak a little English too.
Right.
And then you got the social economics.
Yes.
Like you look at pregnancy, for example. I had a lady who came in and she wasn't doing well, and all of a sudden I said, "You're losing weight, you're spilling protein, so you're not eating. So what is it? You're pregnant." She said, "Dr. Johnson, I have 5 kids at home. We eat at McDonald's. $5 will feed 5 kids, and I'm the last person to eat in the family."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Okay, you got me on that one, but you won't do it again."
So were you able to hook her up with some
with
insurance?
WIC, and when she came in last visit, we had a bunch of groceries,
Mm-hmm.
and we make sure she had groceries every time she came in for a visit. So the drawback to that, though, is, and this is healthcare deals,
Mm-hmm.
she went to the hospital to have a baby, and they asked her, "Do you have a car seat?" And she said, "I don't have one, but call Dr. Johnson, he'll buy me one." And I went like, "Well, wait. Everything you got in healthcare is not free, girlfriend.
Right.
Yeah, we'll get you an agency to get you a car seat, but I want you to
Right.
lose my number for a while and
Right.
realize that it's not always a free handout."
Right.
Yeah, so it's just the education part of healthcare. We have to make sure we educate patients, doctors, and everybody who's involved in the
Mhm.
health of a person.
So, what do you see going on with these patients who have no or low access to care?
Well, I'll tell you what. Number one is transportation is a big one. I think that if we can't meet them, if they can't meet us where we want them, we need to go to meet them where they are.
Mm-hmm.
And then we got cell phones.
Yes.
You can do virtual visits. You can do blood pressure checks, echo checks from a patient's point of view, or either send a midwife or either a PA or whatever to the homes.
Right.
So we just have a big access problem when it comes to healthcare. So when a patient comes in, they come into the system late.
Yeah.
They come in too late, and the next thing they got a hypertensive or diabetic. And then there are things that we need to address. Like, for example, I went to Utah to give a lecture on mental health and pregnancy for the medical society.
Mm-hmm.
And the biggest thing we were concerned about is that people who have mental health problems before they get pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't do a good job in screening them, and then they're so fearful of dying that when they do have a baby, they're like trying to be super mom, trying to do everything, and they're so depressed about this and that, got postpartum depression.
Right.
And then the next thing is so overwhelming, they're shaking their baby, so postpartum psychosis.
Right.
So then that's becoming a big one when it comes to mental health in pregnancy throughout the board. We as healthcare providers aren't doing the best possible job we can because we're not really listening to the patient's need or assessing them.
Right.
But I don't know. These are good questions, and I don't know the answers to it other than the fact that hopefully we talk about universal health coverage.
Yeah.
And then they go, no, people can't make enough money from that. It's like, when did healthcare become so money oriented that if indeed the shareholders don't get their proper shares, then we're going to deny access to patients by doctors or nurses?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
Yeah. I know that the governor's got a little healthcare policy now that he's looking into hospital transparency and how they spend their dollars.
Yeah, I tell you what, I was on one of these committees. We talked about healthcare transparency. We talked about how you're doing about maternal morbidity and mortality
Mm-hmm.
from the upper level. So I was on a meeting and I stopped and I said, so you guys are doing a great job at the administrative effort from on top. We're not seeing the results of it here.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's too much middle management, administrative mumbo jumbo,
Mhm.
that we need to eliminate some of that and turn it into points of action about getting more doctors, getting more nurses and healthcare providers to meet the needs of these patients. But there's a
Right.
shortage.
Right. And ACOG, they have standards for what level of care you can have, like a 1-to-1 or a 1-to-2 patient ratio.
Tell that to the nurses on the VA, on the wards when there's one nurse to
Mhm.
8 active patients.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then you wonder why the nurse doesn't come back to work the next day.
Yeah, you do. Any other pearls of wisdom that you have to offer from your OB/GYN career?
Right. Other than it's a commitment, and it's like I went to OBGYN not as a fallback because I couldn't get into some other profession. I went to OBGYN because I wanted to be of service
Mhm.
to women, to children, to make an impact. But just if that's what you want to do in life, do it. Don't have any drawbacks to it. Be committed. And sure, there's going to be some trials and tribulations where you start doubting yourself. But hopefully we have people like me who can be out there to encourage people, that I can be on a hotline. You can call me and say, hey. So I started a podcast that
Oh, that's neat.
that's kind of helpful, but sometimes people ask the wrong questions.
Uh-huh.
But it's okay. But it's still.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to be very happy when you release your book. I'm going to look for it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it's going to be 2 books now. One is going to
Okay.
be the Dirty Little Secrets of Healthcare, and that's going to be really a serious book.
Good.
And it's going to be a fun book
Mhm.
about me dropping a baby, about I say it's so many things that you can do. I remember I had a lady who, I tell you, this is in my years when I was really full of myself, walked into the room and trying to induce this lady's labor.
Mhm.
You got things ain't happening here. We're gonna sit on you tonight, lady. We're gonna sit on you, and we're gonna pitch you in the morning. And I
Mhm.
walked out,
Mhm.
and she said, "He's gonna sit on me, and he's gonna pit me in the morning." So
Sounds like some
so she said that.
Japanese
Yeah. So the nurse came
sumo.
out and said, so that was medical jargonistic terms. I said, I need to speak English with her. I said, I'm sorry, young lady.
Yes.
Things aren't working. We're going to turn this Pitocin off. We can have you rest. And yada, yada, yada. And first thing in the morning, we're going to restart this. It's like,
Mhm.
I said, God.
Yeah. Yeah.
It took me 40 years to get this. Hopefully someone else get it on day one.
Yeah. Yeah, Suzanne had a funny story about a patient that was pregnant recently with the second baby, and the father said it just fell out. It just shot out.
Yeah, they will. It's like you have to put your hand there.
Yeah, I said, wasn't there a pair of Hanes there to hold the baby back?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I'll give you guys a copy of it, a signed copy. It's just...
We'd love that.
Yeah.
What's the name of your podcast, and do you have the name of your books yet?
Well, the book title is problematic because I think somebody else has the title Dirty Little Secrets of Healthcare from an insurance point of view.
Oh,
I'm talking about Dirty Little Secret because they incentivize doctors with extra pay not to put patients in the hospital. Or either we do shortcuts, just things like that. It's like you ever look at your bill from a hospital visit,
Mhm.
you need to line item by line. Next thing you know, it's like an aspirin is what, $50 billion?
Mhm. In the
And
hospital.
an aspirin. I mean, I have to bring my own
It's
aspirin.
$3
Yeah.
for a bottle of beer.
I'll get it to you, but the podcast is life out or something. I get it because I'm in it with another group, and we talk about just
in case people at home want to know.
fun things. Because actually it's just a podcast to talk about, like, okay, here's your doctor. Here's Johnny Johnson. You can ask me any question that you want to know that I would be able to tell you that your doctor won't tell you.
Mhm.
You go like, oh, go in prepared. When you see a doctor, go in prepared. You have your pencil and paper, ask questions, and don't leave until those questions are answered. If you feel overwhelmed, take
Take someone with
someone
you
with you.
and have them have the questions already
Yeah,
listed.
yeah, because the doctor is going to give you like, if he doesn't know, he's going to make it up and just said, I don't know. Let me find it out and I'll call you back. But
Right. Yeah. So did you ever participate with the in vitro process?
Yep.
You did.
yeah, but I tell you what, I did more primary infertility from the standpoint of just, I had one couple came in and they were crying and they were a Christian couple. And he said, I've been trying to get my wife pregnant and it ain't happening. I'm going like, okay, let's go back to basics. Okay, so
Mhm.
how often are you having sex? And he said, sex? I said, yeah, like the bird and the bees,
Mhm.
doing the nasty, something like that. It was like, but you have to be careful what you say around people because he's a Christian. And so I said, so how you having sex? He said, I lay next to my wife and hold her.
Okay. So there was a
Like
big knowledge
osmosis.
deficit.
So I couldn't laugh, but I went home and had to question, seriously? So I took this couple and I met them on a Saturday and they didn't have any idea. And this guy was not buying into what I was saying.
Mhm.
They got about 10 kids now.
That sounds like Queen Victoria.
He finally found out. He said, thank you, Dr. Johnson. I said, you're welcome. Just pay your bill and see you around. No, I got some stories.
You do.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Oh, it was my
I'm
pleasure.
glad to have met you.
Yeah. I hope this was as fun for you guys as it was for me.
It was. It was awesome.